Warning. Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. What is the scariest thing to happen to you when you've been home alone? The scariest thing that happened to me I didn't know actually happened until the following day. I lived in an apartment in a not-so-good part of a dangerous city with my boyfriend who worked nights. One day our friend came over and called me to let him in our building in a hurry. Turns out this guy had been crouched by my car in the parking lot and had approached our friend and closed in on him. My friend pulled out a weapon and the guy ran off. Upstairs I noticed that the guy had left a green bundle near my car and assumed he would be back for it. It made me uncomfortable, so I suggested we call the cops. Not 5 minutes after, a cop showed up to ask where the guy had gone. SWAT, K9, and about 10 cars showed up and swarmed our area. Turns out the guy had escaped from county the night before with 2 other guys. He was in jail for assault with a deadly weapon and repeated domestic violence offenses. He had climbed the fence in the yard behind our building where our landlord kept his camper, broken into the camper, and stayed there the night before. He had stolen all the electronics out of it, as well as a butcher knife, and was trying to break into my car before my friend showed up. I had been alone the night before and had taken my dog down to the yard to go to the bathroom. I noticed that the barbed wire on the top of the fence had fallen down, and my dog was nervous. But I brushed it off. The guy had been in the camper watching me the whole time and I never knew it. Was home alone one night, and it was close to Halloween in 2015. Loud ass knock on the front door. I was eating dinner, so I slowly but cautiously go to the front door. Open it up and there is blood all over the front porch and no one there. Kind of freaked out a bit, thought it was a prank. Called the cops because what the fuck, you know. They said they would send someone there. They called back and said someone was on a bike and fell and was bleeding bad and was going door to door asking for help. I missed the person, but one of my neighbors helped them out apparently. Crazy. The lights turned off all at once while I was in the kitchen. It was pitch black. I heard the door open. For some reason, instead of thinking power outage, my brain went to someone has cut the power and is coming to kill me. I grabbed the landline, the knife, and was crouched behind the kitchen counter, hearing steps come through the house, trying to breathe as quietly as possible. Then I hear my mom go, "Hello? Anyone home?" The power went out by chance at the exact moment she came in the door. That would have been an awkward hospital trip. I was a young kid home alone, and my mom called the phone and said a tornado was coming, and I had to go shelter in the basement. The basement was incredibly creepy, especially as a child. I never went down there on my own. So little old me grabs my toy lantern to descend into the basement all alone with rain hitting the windows, with only the flicker of my toy lamp to light up my surroundings, while I make my way to the boiler room and shelter in place, until someone comes to get me. Imagine that, just sitting there in the darkness listening to all of the sounds for something like 2 hours. Fucking freaky. Turns out the tornado missed us by miles. There had been a scratching in my ceiling for a while, and my landlady was dragging her feet over having it looked into. One night, around 2 a.m., the scratching became so bad it woke me up from a dead sleep. I tried to reassure myself that whatever it was couldn't really get through to me, and I would be fine until I could call my landlady the next day and really press the issue. Then some debris fell from my ceiling. Whatever was up there had managed to dig a small hole into my arm. I screamed and heard some scurrying away from my approximate location. Grabbed any stuff I needed for the next day, got the fuck out of there, shut the door tight behind me, and slept on the couch. I called my landlady first thing in the morning, and she had someone come while I was at work that day to check it out. A mama raccoon had managed to get her way into the space between the roof and my ceiling, and had given birth to a litter of kits. The guy speculated that the kits were getting old enough to start wrestling around, and that was likely what led to the hole in my ceiling. Luckily it was just small, the size of a quarter, so there weren't any angry raccoons hanging out in my room when I got home. They were able to safely trap and release the whole little family, but I still started hunting for new apartments ASAP. I moved into my new place on May 1st. I was probably 9 years old, my sister was 6. We had a babysitter who was 12, so alone in the sense that no adults were around. Jackass that I was, I squirted bug spray on my sister, and she chased me in retaliation. I ran through some French glass doors to get away from her. She went for the knob and missed. Her arm went through one of the glass panes. She cut herself so deep, you could see muscle, tendons, and bone. It looked like a shittily cut piece of raw meat, since that's basically what it was. The babysitter held a piece of cloth on my sister's arm, until my mom came home, called her right away, and took my sister to the ER. She didn't hit an artery, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was scary as fuck at the time. Got 60 stitches out of it. It was a hot summer and my parents went to a wedding. I had a project to do and it was like 1 a.m. and silent, until a random drunk dude crawled in through my window with a bottle and blush face. I was 20 feet away at my desk from the window, and we both just stared at each other. He was flustered and said, "Oh sorry, their kid wrong house," and attempts to leave the way he came. He was drunk and dizzy, so I helped him by pushing him out the window. I thoroughly shut it and stared at it for 2 hours until my parents came home. It was spooky movie night at a friend's and we were 3 movies deep, just finished watching Dark Skies. I was hungry, so I was like, alright, getting my leftovers, so I went downstairs by myself. When I closed the fridge, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to see what it was, there was a ghostly white, skeletal thing just staring at me from outside the patio, with shimmering hazy lights pulsing behind it. I fucking freaked, dropped my food and ran up the stairs nearly in tears, babbling about someone or thing in the backyard. Turns out it was just my own reflection mixed with the lights and steam from the hot tub outside, but I've never been so scared in my life. This happened many years ago when I was but a youngster. In my suburb there had recently been a spate of break-and-enters. Where I live, they tend to happen suburb by suburb, like, one suburb will get hit a bunch, then there'll be nothing for a while. My family had gone away for the weekend, but I had stayed home because I had work. I was up at midnight watching a James Bond movie, live and let die for those playing at home, with all the lights in the house turned off, and I heard a really sudden and strange thud from my kitchen living area. I instantly knew it was a weird noise. Nothing in the house made any noises like that, so it was immediately suspicious. Just as I was about to get up to go and check it out, I heard it again. That's when I realized it was actually the thudding of the thick glass sliding door from the kitchen to the outdoor patio. As I mentioned, all the lights are off, so I'm making my way through the house turning lights on. When I reached the light switch to turn on the patio light, I hit all of the lights at once, including the light at my front door, which is visible from where I'm now standing. We had those glass panels next to the front door, which I could now also see out of since the light was on. There was nobody at the patio area at this time, but through the glass panels at the front door, I saw someone sprint past and out of the yard. Even though I couldn't see any detail, it was unmistakable to see that it was a person running past. It later occurred to me that they were most likely kicking the glass patio door to try and smash it and break in, as I later learned that this is apparently one common method of entry during burglaries. I had initially assumed they were hitting it with something, but a boot would explain the deep hollow thud of the noise, better than striking it with something. It was pretty spooky at the time, just that sudden realization of that is not a normal noise. Kind of crazy what your intuition knows in moments like that. My house came with an alarm that kept track of movement in every room. I set the alarm before bed, but I woke up in the middle of the night because it was alerting me that there was movement going back and forth between my guest bedroom, down the hall, and into my office. My alarm has a robotic speaking voice, so in the dark I'd hear it say, movement guest bedroom, movement second floor hallway, movement office, etc. I assume it was a glitch, and nothing to worry about, but I ended up turning that function off. I also heard human footsteps above me in my attic once, home alone while my wife was out of town. But I posted that one already months ago. For me, I was 12 years old and my dad was at his girlfriend's house. I went into my room to take a shower. I always put a chair under the door handle in my room because it didn't have a lock. My grandma loved giving me porcelain dolls, and she decorated my room with shelves that had porcelain dolls on them. All of the dolls were on their shelves before I got into the shower. When I exited my bathroom, one of the porcelain dolls was 10 feet across the room, face down on the ground. This doll must have flown across the room to have landed where it did. Also, the doll was not broken. Needless to say, my grandma was sad that all of the dolls were packed up and put in the attic for safekeeping. My grandparents paid me to house sit for them and take care of their animals, 2 dogs, 2 goats and like 3 or 4 horses, for 2 weeks. One of the dogs was really clingy, so I closed the door on him when I went to bed one night. I woke up in the middle of the night, but I was too tired to move, but I saw a black figure with a white face standing right beside the bed. It was making this horrific growling noise and leaned into me and pressed down on my chest. It pressed harder and harder, and then I was able to move my fingers, and then I was eventually able to move my body, but after that, I let the dog sleep in the room, and I slept with the lights on. That was the first time I experienced sleep paralysis, and thankfully the times after that one weren't freaky. Well, my house was sort of out farther away from town. We had neighbors, but they were few and far between. There was a hiking trail opening across the street from our driveway, which was very long, and can't be seen from the trail. My room had a large window facing out to the driveway. Anyway, I was home alone, cleaning my room, and singing We Are the Champions extremely loudly, as well as playing it on my TV. Looked up, and suddenly see a man power walking up my driveway very quickly. It's obvious no one is home, but me, since there aren't any cars in the driveway. So I ran to the front door, which was open because it was hot AF outside, and locked it, and closed and locked my window. Turns out bro-friend did not like that. I called 911 because he was still approaching my house, and I was getting scared by his demeanor, and while on the phone with the 911 operator, he started banging on my front window by the door, and then the door itself. He tried kicking in the door, and tried breaking the window. I went and hid in my mom's closet, because it locked from the inside only, with a knife until the cops showed up. By the time they showed up he was gone, and there were hand and shoes prints all over the door and front window, and some handprints on my bedroom window. They found him about an hour later walking up and down my street. He told them that he heard my pretty singing voice, and just wanted to say hi. He was also drunk, but admitted to being sober at the time of the incident, and started drinking after I rejected him. He also told them that he planned to come in and have some fun with me, after he found that I was home alone. And that he was waiting for nighttime to come back. So yeah. Had a lot of nightmares about that one. Not completely home alone, it was myself and my younger siblings. I was working late one night and had told my brother and sister, then when I got back we could order pizza. I got home at around 21:30 and walked through into the front room where they were sat waiting, both looking pretty confused. They told me they thought I'd already come home, because they heard the front door open, followed by me running up to my room. Creepy enough. I had a quick check upstairs, nothing there, so proceeded to order the pizza. Now, I don't fully believe in ghosts. I've always thought that there could be something, but I'm the kind of person who has to have a logical reason for everything. Anyway, we're sat waiting for our food to arrive when one of our 3 dogs sits up with his ears pricked and essentially watches somebody walk into the room and sit in the empty armchair. Then, dog 2 of 3 starts growling, staring at the armchair. Dog 2 of 3 is a rescue, and is very wary of people he doesn't know, and was acting exactly how he would towards a stranger. Dog 3 then plods into the room chilled as anything, and goes to jump into his favorite armchair. He gets to it and stops, staring directly at face level as if somebody is sat there. At this point I'm sure you can imagine we're all freaking out. He just sits beside the chair growling, and he's definitely not comfortable with whatever's sat there. My siblings and I have all frozen. There's a horrible feeling in the room. We're all sat staring at the armchair on edge when the front door opens. My mom had come home early, and the dogs all run through to see her. I don't think I slept properly again in that house. This seemed to have tied in with a few other creepy things which happened, but I won't go into that here.